Hi everyone, I'm Celine from Blue Cala Patterns and welcome to the final video for the Zabelia Triple Zip bag. This is the video for the final assembly of the bag, and it's going to be a rather short video because we're very nearly done the bag. So the first thing we're going to do, and I have a lot of threads here which is going to bother me. The first thing we're going to do is you're going to take your lining shell. Make sure that your interior zipper pocket is open all the way because, as I mentioned previously, we're going to be turning through the opening at the bottom of the zipper pocket. Now remember that we sewed our lining shell smaller than the exterior shell, so when we sew these together it will be a tight fit. Also, if the direction of zippers is important to you, make sure that you place these in the correct direction. So I want my zippers to all open this way, so I'm going to do the same with my lining. This lining zipper pocket, rather. So I'm going to place the exterior shell inside of the lining shell. Like this. And yes, it is going to be a tight fit, but we're going to make it work. Okay, make sure that the zipper is inside. Make sure that your connectors have the D-ring pointing down towards the bottom of the bag. And the first thing that we will do, so you're going to have to kind of crumple the exterior inside the lining. Now I did have this is a remnant piece of vinyl that I had. I don't know where I bought it, but it is got a suede backing and my interfacing has not been able to fuse to it. I don't know what kind of material that is. And normally this interfacing fuses very well, so very annoying. So just ignore that part because it is due to my choice of vinyl, mystery vinyl. Okay, so now first thing I'm doing is I'm lining up these side seams. So the side seams of the lining is being aligned with the side seam from the exterior. Now, one thing that's important, where your zipper end curves outwards, make sure that that isn't pinched or twisted because otherwise it's going to show in the final bag and it's going to look ugly. Okay, and then same thing on the other side. Now, if you don't have a free arm machine, if you have a flatbed machine like I do, sewing the openings of bags can be a little bit difficult. And what I'm going to do for this bag is I'm actually going to sew the small area here where the side seams are aligned, just because it'll be easier for me to do the rest. Those are the most important parts to be aligned. So I'm going to do them first separately and then I'm going to do the rest. So I find what helps right away is to put your needle in the down position. Because the clips don't always hold everything properly in place. Now, one important thing as well is because we're using a zipper along the top edge, we can't use 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, so we're going to use 1/4 inch. So I'm kind of reaching in here and making sure that my zipper is flat. Once you've sewn the ends, you can pin or clip everything in between those two sewn ends. And if you've used a stretchy vinyl like I have, you'll see I'm going to be having a little bit of difficulty getting it to all line up and be clipped. But you'll hopefully have chosen better vinyl than I have. Once that top edge is all clipped together, you're going to go over to the machine and sew the exterior and lining shells together with 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's very important. It's 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now that the bag is all sewn together at the top edge, you're going to reach through the bottom of your interior zipper pocket and you're going to pull the exterior shell through that opening in your zipper pocket until the bag is completely turned right side out. Now the bag doesn't look all that great right now. It really needs a good press. Normally I would wait until after top stitching and then I would stuff the bag really well and give it a good press, and that'll help give the bag a nice shape. Now I'm going to go ahead and top stitch the top edge with about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now the top stitching is done. I'm going to go ahead and sew the bottom of my zipper pocket shut. Now normally I would change my thread to be a matching color, so I would usually use blue, but for the sake of the video I'm just going to use what I have in my machine. So you're going to clip those bottom folded edges together, and then when I sew these pieces together, I like to sew with a very, very small seam allowance, just enough so that I am sewing those two bottom folded edges together. Make sure to backstitch. Now that I've sewn up the bottom of the zipper pocket, I'm just going to go ahead and tuck that inside the bag. Now would be a good time for me to stuff the bag and press it because it's looking a little bit messy right now. Now the next thing we're going to do is install our zipper end. So the amount of zipper tape that you want to cut off really depends on whether you intend to have your zipper tail sticking out of the bag or if you plan on tucking it inside the bag. I prefer to tuck mine inside the bag, so I'm going to cut off quite a bit of it. I just want to make sure that my bag opens up properly all the way. So you're going to need your zipper end and the little screw that came with it, and you'll also need a small screwdriver. Now I am going to go ahead and trim my zipper tape about here, and then I'm going to make sure to heat seal the cut end so it doesn't come apart or fray. And then you turn it so that you're looking at the wrong side of your zipper tape, and then you fold in the ends, kind of overlapping them about the area where the coil is. Then you pop on your cap. Now normally you put a drop of glue in here. I forgot my glue, so I'm going to do that later. So I'm just going to slip the end of the zipper inside this cap that has a drop of glue. And I like to use the pointy end of my seam ripper to kind of make sure that it's tucked in all the way to the end of the little zipper cap. And then when I'm happy with that, I add the screw. Make sure that you have the screw all the way in. And then of course my preference here is to tuck in the end of my zipper, so I don't want the zipper tail sticking out. I like to have it hidden inside the bag, but you can leave it out if that's what you like. Now we're going to sew up the crossbody strap for our bag. You're going to need your webbing, so this is 1 inch wide webbing. And I'm just going to double check that I heat sealed the cut ends properly before I sew it on. And you're going to attach the 1 inch slide to one end of the strap. So the middle bar at the center of the slider, it has a rounded edge on the right side. So pay attention to that. Slide in the webbing one end over the middle bar and then out through the other end. And then we're going to fold it over onto itself twice, approximately 1 inch. And then use some clips to hold that in place. And then we'll go over to the machine to sew this together. Okay, so I'm going to take the clips off, and I start sewing across where the folded edge of the webbing is. And make sure you keep your needle in the down position while you're sewing this. Okay, then when I get to the edge, about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, then I stop and I rotate, adjust the strap so that everything is nice and straight, and then I sew down. So it's going to be more of a rectangle than a square, but it really doesn't matter. This over. Okay, so now I'm sewing across again. Okay, and I've stopped about 1/8 of an inch from the edge again, and then rotate and go back down to where you started. Okay, and then sew diagonally through the rectangle or the box of stitching. Okay, then sew again at this top part across. Okay, stopping again 1/8 of an inch from the edge, then sew diagonally across again this way to the opposite corner here. Okay, and then we're going to sew along that bottom folded edge again. And then I backstitch. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Just need to trim my threads. Now that we've attached the 1-inch slide to one end of the strap, we're going to thread it through the 1-inch swivels. So you're going to take one of the 1-inch swivels. Now it's really important that you do not twist the strap while you're threading this. And keep in mind the end where you see the folded over strap, that's the wrong side of your strap. So then the other end, you're going to pass it through that 1-inch slide again. And then just double check, make sure nothing is twisted, looks good. And then the other end, you're going to pass that through the ring of the second 1-inch swivel. And then the same thing as you did for attaching the slide, you're going to fold it over onto itself twice, approximately 1 inch or so. It doesn't really matter that it be 1 inch specifically. And then we're going to go over to the machine and sew it the same way as we did for the slide, with a box of stitching with an X inside. So now the crossbody strap is ready to attach to the bag. I got it a little bit twisted, so I'm just going to untwist it. And then all you have to do is attach the 1-inch swivels to one to each D-ring on the bag. And then the bag is finished. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I can't wait to see your finished bag.